Hi everyone, your host again, Vatsal Shah, and now we have Marizo from Renosys, and then he does not need any introduction. He's a well-known face, in specifically in Salesforce Commerce and Adobe space. He's like 15 years of experience and done work with all size of e-commerce or digital commerce implementations in different territories, and I would say in different regions. He's a director of commerce at Renosys. Over to you, Mirzo. And
yes, sure. Thank you. So let me just get the deck out. Here we go. So first of all, you will see that there is a QR code on the deck, and if you scan it, you will have direct access to the presentation. This deck includes much more information than what I can go through in 25 minutes. So I do recommend that you go back to it and get more insights and more value out of it afterwards. So without further ado, welcome to the masterclass on effective e-commerce experience, and let's dive into it. So first of all, this information comes off the back of a research that I've been conducting over the last few years. I have added a couple of slides here describing what the research has been focusing on, but essentially in a nutshell, is e-commerce success reverse engineerable? Can it be reverse engineered? And this aims to bring out the pillars of e-commerce success and the key success areas within each of the pillars, and off the back of that, generate new set of best practices. So today I'm going to be sharing some of those best practices with you, and I will personally be highlighting just a few of them whilst we go through the presentation. But again, go back to the deck and read it all so that you can get the most out of it. So these are just information about the kind of companies that I've been speaking to and where the data comes from. But let's go straight into e-commerce success, what it is and how to achieve it. So first of all, we need to understand the definition of e-commerce success, and this is a balancing act. You need to get right two main things really, which are the customer expectations, and you need to meet them, but you also need to meet the business expectations. So e-commerce success comes as a result of these two things working together. But if you boil down everything, you can make it even simpler and just say that e-commerce success is essentially customer experience which serves a business purpose. So our objective as e-commerce directors, as people that have an e-commerce site, is to create an experience that serves your purpose and makes clients happy. But now let's understand what the experience is. So a little bit freaky here, but never mind. So when we look at the experience and ask people what this is, they come up with all sorts of words to describe it. So the one thing that we have understood over time is that experience isn't a matter of design. It's not a matter of layout. It's not a matter of fancy things on the website. It's a matter of everything combined together that has an impact on how the user perceives the relationship and the interactions with your brand. So we also need to understand where this experience lives, and it lives throughout the customer life cycle. It starts when the customer is completely unaware, and it finishes when actually continues after that as well, but when the customer becomes an advocate of the brand itself. And in these different steps, in these different phases, some, like these orange 6 ones, are actually happening on the website itself. So today we're going to be looking at those specific steps, which I call the pillars of on-site experience success, right? So this slide has pillars, as you can see. It also has a bit of a freaky woman coming up from the pillars, but it's the only slide that I could find, only video I could find with pillars. So just take it. Let's talk about the pillars. We said that there are these 6 pillars about the on-site experience, but there are another 2 which are potentially more important than all the others combined together, and these are speed and personalization. I will touch on them very briefly at the end of the deck, but essentially just bear in mind that these represent your foundation for your e-commerce success. So we have to get them right. Now, for each of these, I will dig deeper and tell you what the success areas are of each one, and then some of the best practices that come with it. There are a ton more, so if you would like to connect with me after this session and have a conversation about this, I will be more than happy to do so. So browsing. Let's talk about this. A successful browsing experience allows the user to find the answers to their question. And the question may be, do they have this product? Is it in stock? Do they have policies that I like? And so forth. But the browsing experience is all about getting the user from where he is to where he wants to be. And the key success areas in the browsing phase, or in this pillar, are taxonomy, filters, search, landing pages, content blocks, recommendations, and guided selling for some. Now, again, I can't go through all these in detail, but I will give you some insights on each one of these. So in terms of taxonomy, one thing which is really important is to keep the levels of your categories below 3. And if you can keep it to 2, it's even better. Now, the one thing that you should never do is go all the way to 4, because then your conversion rates and the use of the structure of the content is just not going to be done properly. We're talking about information architecture. When we look at the menus, which is the maximum expression of the architecture of the information, more than half of the people will say that if there is too much information on the menu, they'll revert to search or other tools, meaning that essentially there is no need to put everything on a mega menu. There is a need to put the right sections there so that you can start addressing the user towards the right areas of the site. And then they can use other tools like filters, guided selling, and so on to find the actual good product. And one thing that seems to be working really well is to have dynamic blocks or dynamic shortcuts on the menu, for example, that change depending on the browsing behavior of the person or their purchase history. So, for example, those two blocks that you see on the top right of the example here are dynamic blocks on the Charles & Keith site that will do exactly that. And one thing I would recommend to everyone, because all the companies that I have seen doing this have seen a very clear increment in conversion rates and reduction of time to value, let's say, which is the 3-check testing. And there is a link there to a tool that can do this. There are several, but this is just a hint. Do this kind of testing because it helps you understand how the information needs to be laid out on the menus and what in a way that it actually makes sense. In regards to filters, there is a lot to say about these, but one thing that is really important to understand is that it depends on the quality of the product information that you have. So before starting to think about filters and how advanced you'd like them to be, make sure that the information you have at the base is as solid as it can get. The more products you have, the more likely it is that some products don't have the right attributes or the right values, or simply they're not set. So when you go and use the filter, it doesn't actually work as well as, the result that it gives is not as good as it should be. And one other thing is to activate filters which are with values which are available on the page. So if you are displaying shoes and you have the size filter, make sure that the size only displays 2, 4, 6, 8 and like the numeric values, but not medium, large, small, because those sizes, those values belong to, for example, sweaters. So this happens really, really frequently, that we see at least. And when filters are done right, they really help the user. So all the investments should go, a lot of the investments should go there for sure, but make sure the product information is solid. Now, in terms of the logics, there is the AND logic or the OR logic. One narrows down the results to a limited number of results, and the other one kind of expands it a little bit. Now, what the usual behavior, what the expected behavior is to be able to say things like, I'm looking for a t-shirt, which is either cotton or linen, and it's either blue or green. So you're using these logic in this matter. It shouldn't be that I'm looking for a t-shirt in cotton or linen or blue or green, because then it just becomes too many options anyway. So you have to narrow down, but leave a little space to move around. And then the URLs, because when you are on a filtered page, listed page of products, and you go into the product detail page, when you click back, you want to make sure that the user actually goes back to the pre-filtered listing page. Otherwise, it's a frustrating experience and it doesn't really work. And the other thing is that if you do that, anyways, you have pages that will be able to be indexed on search engines. So that is another advantage of that. In terms of search, which is one of my favorite topics, there are 4 things here which I feel are extremely important, and in fact, they are demonstrated to be extremely important. So one is that it has to be predictive. So whilst you start typing on your search bar, it needs to start showing you relevant results, okay? The second thing is that it needs to understand natural language, because people are not anymore searching just for keywords. They're using entire phrases and ways to describe objects that they can't remember the name of. So your whatever tool you decide to use for search, whether it's the native Magento tool or something external like Clevo, it has to be able to understand this and interpret it correctly, so that the results that you get back from that string is actually relevant. It has to be smart, because you can't keep maintaining tables of synonyms and spelling mistakes in 25 different languages. You need the tool to start understanding on its own when a spelling mistake is a spelling mistake, or when it means something different, right? So that is something really, really important. And it vastly improves the quality of the results as well when you have it, and of the experience. And then it has to be configurable, because some objects, some items that you sell, you may want to prioritize over others. And for some keywords, you may want to create dedicated pages that you want to surface, like specific landing pages for search that contain all the relevant information regarding that hot topic, let's say. So for your most searched keywords, you should probably have dedicated pages anyway. Landing pages, which is very similar to dedicated pages, I refer to in the sense of pages built specifically around ad campaigns. So you are investing money on delivering, on getting people on your site. Make sure that you have landing pages that contain all the information that the customer may want to see, so that they don't have the need of going off to another site to find the rest of the information and then go and buy there. So this is a very common mistake that we see, and the companies that are getting it right, effectively, they're getting much better results. So go in that direction. They have to be concise, but at the same time, they have to contain all the information that the customer needs. So it's a fine balance. You need to experiment a little bit. And for this, I suggest doing A/B testing anyway. Tell, don't sell. And what I mean by this is that just, the bigger the buy button, it doesn't mean that people are going to buy more. So try and tell them a story about why there is value in buying that product, rather than telling them to buy that product. It just kind of less pushy and more consultative, if you want. It tends to work a lot better. And then make these pages memorable, because the last thing you do want is that they have all the fantastic information, they just don't remember where they saw the page. So make sure that your brand comes across in a good way. It's not just about products. And then we have content blocks. Now, content blocks are often mistaken because they are used in homepages very often to simply replicate or make bigger links to the same category pages that are already in the mega menu, which is pretty much utterly useless. The value of these content blocks, especially on the homepage, are really to inspire people. And there are people that come to your site and don't necessarily know what exactly they need to buy. So that's when you need to inspire them, and that's where the content blocks really help. The other thing is that you want to engage with people. So creating engaging content that you surface through content block is useful, because those people may take that content and share it with someone else that may then become a new potential customer. So the objective of content on the site is not just to sell directly to the user who's seeing this, but is to make sure that they promote your brand outside of your area of knowledge, let's say, and outside of the people that you can already reach. Upsell and cross-sell doesn't always mean that you have to show products. You can sell upsell concepts and ideas, and again, link it with the inspirational part. So when you know that there is a hot topic, people are searching for the same thing, create a page about it, do, I don't know, a tutorial or anything that may be relevant for that specific hot topic, and use the content blocks to surface that content. And then the other thing is interruption or monotony. You have all been on websites where you have very, very long lists of products, and after a while that you're scrolling down, you enter some sort of a passive mode that you're not even looking anymore, you're just scrolling. So every now and again, having this interruption in that list with content blocks which are relevant to what you're looking at, it kind of helps users snap back into what they were actually doing. So this will keep people focused as well. Okay, so recommendations, upsell products, very useful, and cross-sell products, just as useful. Essentially, we're looking at increasing the average basket value. Now, these should be used, but one recommendation is when you're upselling, try to only upsell 10-20% of the value, not more, and make sure it's not cumulative. And when you're cross-selling, make sure that it's not all on one category, for example. So if you're selling shoes and you want to upsell, cross-sell, I don't know, handbags, try not to just cross-sell handbags, try from different departments of your store, right? So that you have a better chance of kind of seeing what's relevant, and make sure all these are dynamic. So they are based on the behavior of the user, but also on their purchase history, so that the recommendations are more relevant. There's no way of doing this manually for everyone. It has to be AI driven. There's no other way. Cross-selling content also very good. When you have good content, try to distribute it. And then excessive recommendations is something that you need to strictly avoid. So don't just spam people with it. Guided selling, there are two ways of doing this. One is the product configurators, when you have objects like, I don't know, sofas that have 1,000 different configurations in size, material, colors, etc. And the other one is product finders. It's when you have a lot of similar products and you need to help the user understand which one is the right one for them. So in this case, there is an example here from Brooks Running, and you can have a look at it. It was quite smart. Now, the second phase, the second pillar is validate, and a successful validation experience allows users to build up the confidence and trust that they need before making that decision to purchase, right? So what we want to do here is focus on these 4 areas, which is product information. Once again, we've talked about this already, product comparison, user-generated content, and policies. Now, they all play a really crucial role. And in terms of product information, enough information to keep users on the page. We said this already. I'm going to move on from this, but it's just to show how important product information is. Taxation and hidden costs. There shouldn't be any hidden costs. When you're displaying the product information on the page, it needs to be as clear as it can possibly be. And you don't want to have frustration in the later stage post-purchase, because the post-purchase phase is still part of the experience, and you're going to get that on your feedbacks and reviews. So be careful with that. Availability and scarcity. So the stock levels need to be quite precise, and the fact that you have low stock levels is not necessarily a bad thing. You can leverage that, because when there is scarcity, there is urgency to buy as well. So you can leverage it, but make sure that your stock levels are clear. Size and compatibility guides. I can't stress enough how important these can be, because when you have when you buy a product, you will also return it if it's not good enough. So your size guides or your compatibility guides, if you're doing, for example, computer hardware, they need to be really good. And then storytelling. Don't just push the sell. We said this already. Try to tell a bit of a story. Try to add something more than crude facts. So product comparison, again, it's very, it helps the user select the right product when there is uncertainty. And in many cases, it can help show the additional value of the item that costs a little bit more. And it is also a very nice place where you can put a request assistance. So your customer service agents can interact at that point upon request to help them choose between one and the other. When that happens, the sale is nearly certain. And if there is a bundle associated to the more expensive product, then it's worth surfacing that, because then it shows that, yes, it's more expensive, but there is convenience in buying that. And maybe you can upsell. And then we've seen a client doing something really smart, which is to choose both. So essentially, it's like, don't worry too much about which one is right or wrong. Get both, and then you can return one for free. So at least you know that you're going to get the right one. And for them, it did wonders. So I'm going to move on. User-generated content. These can be product images themselves, created by the users that they have shared with you on reviews, etc. But used as product images, they come across really strong, and they really validate the fact that people are buying it. Star rating, more than, you can increment your clicks on Google just by having star ratings by about 30%. These are the statistics. And not to mention that your sales go up when you have a product which has the star rating against products that don't have the star rating. One important thing is that the fact that you have some bad star ratings actually increases trust, because it shows transparency, and therefore people will trust the company overall better. Maybe they won't buy that product, but they will trust the company more. Reviews are as essential as they can get, and it doesn't matter in which industry and how luxurious your brand is. It really doesn't matter. Those reviews need to be used, and they need to be used in smart ways that we can discuss in further sessions, maybe. Social feed, again, it just shows at a blink of an eye. It's like you can immediately see that there are other people that have bought the product, and it's social proofing. It's really, really important during this validation phase. Now we move on to the purchase phase, and I hope I'm still kind of on time. Very little. Okay, so for the purchase phase, we have to look at these 6 areas, which is price, quick checkout, security evidence, payment options, and refund policy and clear confirmation. Now, the last 2, they are starred because I don't have a slide for them because they are self-explanatory. You need to confirm very clearly that something has been purchased. You need to send out an email notification about it with the relevant information. I don't know why, but some companies are still not doing that. And in terms of these other areas, let's look at them very, very quickly. But price, it needs to be absolutely clear on the website. Discounts need to be clear. Currencies need to be specified. Is it a base currency? Are you able to transact in that currency? These things can push people off buying from the website if they're not clear right until the end. And the second thing is like the quick checkout. Help your clients by avoiding filling in all the fields. So postcode and address lookups are really useful. There are payment gateways that don't even need to do that, because they will take your information from previous sessions, like take Amazon Pay or Klarna, or so that is something that will help the user populate less information. Mandatory fields, use as few as possible, because the more you add, the least likely it is that you're actually going to get the sale. And the guest checkout, nowadays there is no excuse not to have a guest checkout. You need to have it, and you can ask for the user to add a password at the end of it if they want to create an account, but ultimately just do it. If you're in the B2B industry, maybe it's not yet there, but you need to find a way to make it happen, because it's friction that you're avoiding. Security evidence, SSL certificates everywhere, no need to say it. In many places, say it's mandatory anyway. And then company information to be quite clearly visible at the bottom of the site on the footer. It's expected to be there, and many people actually check it as a final validation during the purchase process. And the perception of security, you have to understand that people think that a site is less secure when they see images which are not high resolution, when they see that the site is slow. It's all things that give them the impression that the site may not be secure. So make sure that, apart from the actual security things, which I will assume are mandatory, you also have to make sure that the site comes across as being secure, because otherwise you'll see drop-off rates. Payment options. You don't need 2,000 different payment options, but you do need the ones relevant for your specific location, and you do need the ones which are relevant for the mobile paying, so like Apple Pay and Android Pay, because it's just easy to use your fingerprints and pay. And for B2B, do add a pay by card, although your customers say that they want to pay 30 days later on invoice. Just do add a credit card option. It tends to work. And don't choose your payment gateway just by the percentage that they charge you, because there is much more that they can offer. The last semi-last phase is the receive and return. Remember that the user has now purchased and they are waiting for the good to arrive. So give that tracking information in any possible way, whether it's on the website, on the email, on proactive notification, SMS, WhatsApp, anything that is vaguely possible, do it, because it's worth the investment. Your customer service agents will love you for that. And I am going to move on again. Please go back to the slides and look at the details of it. And then finally, the feedback. So now the customer has done his job. He has bought and returned and done everything. And now we need to collect that feedback as much as we can and use it in the right way. So when we look at this, it's, collect on email. There are several tools like Yotpo, for example, that will allow users to open an email and simply reply on that and give you star ratings divided by in different categories. So like for your service, for your product, and suggestion on how to improve the service. And you can use these across the site in different ways. So you can improve your service, you can enrich your validation phase pre-purchase by leveraging this content that you're only collecting now. So this is the thing. And I think that I'm going to be closing. The last two things that we mentioned were speed and personalization. Imagine being stuck in second gear on a motorway for 200 miles. It's not fun. So when a site is too slow, everything else, imagine your holiday, it's gone. It's useless. So you have to make sure that your site performs, and you have to make sure that your holiday is relevant for you, right? So the kind of experience that you want to live, that you want to experience, they have to be there. So make sure the site is personalized for the users, and make sure that it's damn fast if you can. And in closing, I want to ask you the question is, what experience do you think you're delivering, right? So do a self-assessment of your experience, do a self-assessment, ask everyone around you, the people within the demographic that you're targeting, what do they think of all these areas on your website? Do they work as well as you think? And if they don't, how can you improve them? So I'm going to close with providing the QR code again, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I don't know whether we have any time for questions, but this will take you straight back to the deck. Please read on. There is a lot more content than what I was able to disclose in these 25-30 minutes.
It was really interesting and beautiful presentation, Maurizio. And I think people enjoyed a lot. As we are running short of time, but let me ask one question. ECX, e-commerce consumer experience, the new word we have heard today first time in Singapore, for example, and in all the talks today. So the question came up is, are ECX and UX are very different, and what retailer should focus more?
Okay, I'm going to steer away from the question because off the back of the research that I've done, I don't think it really matters how you call it. Ultimately, there is one true thing which is never going to change regardless of the technology which is available. And that is, what does the customer want or need to see to generate enough trust to buy, right? That is what matters. And not only to buy, but to advise other people to buy from you. Now, today, it could be VR, it could be anything. But the whole point of this session is that there is no point in doing anything more unless you get the foundations right, because everything else just crashes and burns unless you have this nailed. And when you're talking about experience, in my understanding of experiences in that slide with the word clouds, it entices everything, and it does include also trends. So if today we are talking about PWA or whatever else, it will become part of that experience or the perception of the overall experience. So it's not a static word. It doesn't have a static meaning. Experience is something that changes with trends, with locations, with people, with demographics. So you really have to understand your target audience before you go ahead and build an experience. Whether it's PWA or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't really matter, but you need to understand what they mean by experience.
That's great. Awesome answer. And thank you very much. And thank you for being with us.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure, and I'll hope to see you again next year.
Yeah, sure. Next year in person. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.